everyone. Welcome to CorePower Yoga Conversations. I'm really excited today to be chatting with Pamela Levine, CEO of Manduka. Welcome, Pamela. So glad to be talking with you.
Niki, thank you so much. Same here. So happy to be here. Manduka, we have had a long relationship with CorePower. It is a personal love, a professional love, so couldn't be happier to join you today.
I'm really excited to connect with you and to collaborate a little bit on what it's like being a woman CEO. How long have you been, Pamela, the CEO of Manduka?
Well, first off, Niki, let me just say I'm so excited to be here. CorePower's been a professional and personal favorite of mine and Manduka's. We love CorePower. I love CorePower. And any studio that brings yoga to the communities is our favorite. So I've been at Manduka for 2 years as a CEO, but actually was at Manduka in a younger version of myself when we were smaller and grew the business, and CorePower is a big part of our growth, and it's been a way that our brand has reached so many people. So there's so much love between our brands. I'm just so happy to be here.
Yes, and I have a personal love for Manduka myself. Love the mats. So I'm so excited. Want to talk a little bit about leadership and what strategies or approaches to leadership have been successful for you?
It's such a good question. I would say ever evolving, and mostly because I think teams and people are evolving. I'm 52. When I was younger, I'm Gen X, and so when I was younger, we worked in an office 5 days a week, and everyone was around a table, and there was a C-suite. And, of course, there's been growth of women at the C-suite, but it was less about male, female. It was just, we all worked incredibly hard around the clock. And it was just like, as many hours as you put in is how committed you were. It was like that mentality, right? And I think leadership was different then. It was more top down. I think now I find as I've gotten older and older relatively, is just to say, I have to be more comfortable with myself every day to be the most authentic at the C-suite, at the executive table. I think the more real I am, the more honest I am about what's working, what's not. I think being really communicative with the staff and consistently communicative, that is probably what's proven to be, when I'm at my best, all of that's clicking. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is a lesson for everyone, right? Not just women, but for all of us, is when we can accept ourselves as we are and really, truly embrace that we are enough and we don't have to try to be something we're not to succeed or fit in or be accepted. It enables us to put our best energy then into the work rather than an image or what you think you need to show up like. But the energy goes into the actual content of what we're doing. And it took me a long time to learn that as well, especially as a woman. When I was at a table with all men, I felt like I had to be like them. Did you experience that?
Yeah. It's funny because the blessing of my first CEO job, or, being a CEO of a yoga company, is you can use words like love and connection at a leadership table. Yeah. And when I was younger, those words, maybe in other businesses aren't the words that can come out of your mouth. In fact, I was talking to someone this morning and I was just bursting about, the love and compassion that is yoga, yoking of mind and body. Those of us that are in the yoga space of our brands actually live that. We are living the yoga lifestyle every day. And those are just not words that you use a lot. And so I know, and I imagine you too, have the luxury at this particular brand to be able to use those words. But for sure, same. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. When we were revisiting our higher purpose and core values a few years back, as companies do, to kind of reestablish, or you're at a different era, things have changed, right? You refresh these things, and we were defining our higher purpose, and which is to power love from the inside out. And there was some trepidation around, can you put love in the business world in a statement like that? How's that?
Exactly.
And yes, we are fortunate that in what we do, yes, you can, but I believe, yes, we should in all businesses.
I think the one thing that when you're in the CEO seat, I've been told this, and now obviously I've experienced it, it can be, lonely, right? They always say, obviously, leadership is lonely. And in particular, this role where you have a lot of constituents that you want to take care of, right? It's everyone. You want everyone to be bountiful and abundant in all ways, right? And I think that is a lot of pressure. And I also say, I just try to like be soft with myself, and then I can be soft with my team in a way that feels their soul. I think these are also, to your point, should be at all businesses. I really wish we could just continue, and I hope to serve as a beacon to try to be brave enough to do it, right? I mean, you kind of have to
Yes,
be brave in that
yes,
way.
you do. I agree. I think it's slowly changing in the business world. It's evolving, thankfully. Perhaps not fast enough for some of us, but to be able to bring the language of emotion into the business world, because what we do, no matter what industry or business we're in, it's the people that make it happen. And human beings have emotion. We have feelings, and to be able to express that is just so important. Acknowledge how we feel. But years ago, it was described as, someone who's too emotional for the role, right? Whether it's business or politics or whatever. If you had to, Pamela, give younger women advice, who are looking to grow in their career, what's the best piece of advice you could give them?
Um, I think there's two, is what comes up for me. One, it's funny, there's a gentleman, Scott Galloway, who's from, I think he teaches at the Stern School of Business in New York, but he always talks about, you know, just your early jobs may not always feel so passionate, but they're so purposeful. And I agree. I think, I don't want to say it's a tour duty, but you can be lucky and land at a job that you love early. But I've had many jobs, even into my 40s and beyond, that just weren't the perfect fit at the right time. They're so purposeful. And I think staying in those jobs for a few years, you're going to learn a lot. And I think it's really important to compose a career that's not linear and will have some bumps and bruises. And it makes everything so much richer in the next role. So that's just one piece. And the other piece is, for me, I've been so blessed with great mentors, but I worked at those. I will say luck is a little bit made, and I took care of those that I worked for. I made sure that they were supported because they need support. I made sure that I stayed connected to those that I had worked for in the past. And, again, not to like be the quote maven on this podcast, but someone said, if you want something, they'll give you advice. If you want advice, they'll give you something. And so it's just like such an interesting thing of like, yeah, just it's not always networking to want something. It's just to connect. And I really, I can't say enough about how much that's done for me personally and professionally. Yeah.
That is great advice, to stay connected. That didn't come naturally to me. Um, it wasn't something I was opposed to, but whenever I moved on to what was next, being, 100% focused on what was next kind of consumed me. And it didn't dawn on me till later, much later in my career. It wasn't easy. I wasn't a networker. That never came naturally to me. So I think that's great advice, brilliant advice.
And by the way, what's so interesting as I listen to you talk is it just hit me is really, it's really interesting because, again, not to be gender specific, but if we just talk in generalities, women are great communicators and love to be verbal and love to connect. And I find that even in my own job, when I get working heavy, I shut down. I'm focused on my task and I actually lose all that beauty. And it really doesn't do me a good service in my role, let alone my life. So it's just ironic, right? We get so focused.
I know. Yeah, me too. You start the meeting with like zoom into the task and
Exactly. Okay,
you
we
don't need
thought
to
we're
check
here.
in how
Mm-hmm.
everyone's
Yep.
doing. Sure, everybody's able to be present. And so I can hear it through your responses. I know a little bit about you, what I've read. But I want to hear you talk a little bit about how yoga has impacted your life.
Yeah. It's funny, weird. I don't want to get emotional. It's funny. I was thinking this morning because I was thinking about coming to talk to you, and I was thinking, I think I read an article about you were talking about how yoga impacted your life. And I remember a woman that lived below me, she went to a yoga studio. And actually, ironically, CorePower had opened up about 5 years later, but there was a studio called Prana Power Yoga in Newton Corner, I think it was. And I think it was one of your expansion studios had opened up there. But it was a hot studio. It was an hour and a half. Again, we're talking like 15 years ago where hour and a half was like a standard, no mirrors, right?
Yeah,
No music. And it was a vinyasa flow. And I remember there was a teacher, Jackie, there. And I remember I was going through a breakup. And I remember being in frog pose, which is fronting on that Manduka, which Manduka, for those of that don't know, stands for the Mandukasana pose, which is the frog pose. That's how Manduka was born. And I could talk more about the origin story. But the funny thing is, I remember being in the Mandukasana pose and like bawling and just so much coming out of, it's hip opener, right? It's a peak pose and you're in that pose and your body's releasing. And I just never forgot that image. And I realized that all those years I had started yoga at 30 and it really transformed my life going in physical, coming out more connected. Never went in for a like yin class that I wouldn't even have sat still for a yin class back then.
right, right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, I think, really shed a lot of layers. And again, I'm the youngest of all boys and have an amazing family of support. But I came up in an environment of all men. So I was, ready to go. I was an athlete. I was, not sitting there talking too much of conversing my feelings. I was physical and I was able to express myself through performance. That's really on and off the field became something for me. And so I think yoga brought all that softness back into
Yes.
my life. And it's taken me probably to my 50s to combine, yoke those two. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. That's so interesting. Being the only girl in with all brothers. And I have a
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend like that. And we often talk about that. I'm one of four girls and I have a brother as well.
Wow.
But yeah,
Niki.
I had a very different experience. So yeah, that is not how I got, I call it Teflon coated, right? We put our
Yeah.
protective armor on going through life. We get hardened or we learn to protect based on, whatever things we're trying to survive or power through
Yeah.
or struggle through.
Yes.
Yoga has peeled those layers off and it's easier coming out of an environment where that's all around you as well. It's more conducive, I think, for sure.
Exactly.
So, shifting gears, I read your feature in Authority magazine, and I loved how you talked about how you really prioritize your own well being. So, would love to hear a little bit about what your non negotiables as it relates to self care are.
Well, it's never perfect. I'll just say that, sometimes I laugh because I do have boundaries. I think that for me, and I don't mean boundaries of, it sometimes creates like I know in the space of creating a boundary creates like a negative energy. But I think for me, it's more just to your point. I try to do 5 to 10 minutes of a body scan when I wake up. And I do that, sometimes I'll be in Supta Bath and Konasana in my bed, just sitting there, and I'll just say, like, how do I feel? How does my heart feel? How does my body feel? How does my mind feel? Do I feel shortness of breath already because I had some crazy dream, or I'm stressed about work, or something is going on with my family? And I think that 5-10 minutes right away tells me what I need, because some days I can let it fly and be totally fine, but every day I'm very different. So I wake up and I'm like, okay, I can tell you didn't sleep well. You're stressed. Here's the deal. Look at your calendar. You're going to have to make 2 meeting cancels and you need space today. You got to go for a walk. You have to eat well. So for me, it's a listening exercise on a daily basis. That's probably the best way to put it. And again, certainly never perfect. There's weeks where I go through and I haven't done that. But if I can do that 4 out of the 7 days, I usually can find that I'm taking care of myself in the process. So yeah, that's a little bit of how I do it. I told this to a girlfriend of mine who was challenging. I go, I know this sounds crazy, but I literally say to myself, Pam, how are you? Are you okay? Like as if I'm talking to a friend. And I literally say that sentence, and it's somewhat twisted my brain to be like, hold on. So I actually have an answer for that question.
Right.
And so I know it sounds a little cheesy, but it actually it works if you try it. Yeah.
I think it is it's a version. What I'm hearing is it's kind of a version of stepping outside of yourself, and like as that third party observer, right, of yourself, because how our body feels is an indication of how we, are holistically, right?
Yes.
What our state is emotionally, psychologically, physically, spiritually. So it shows up in our body. So, to be able to separate from that and observe it, right? So that we can shift our state. So I love that. And so sort of asking yourself, Pam, how do you
Yeah,
feel?
like, and it's a form of self-love. Like it feels so
Yes.
loving to be like, oh my God, that's so sweet. You're doing that to yourself. And so it just, that somehow just gets in the fascia of your body, and suddenly you
Yeah.
just feel like you gave yourself a hug. So it's just that taking care of so you can take care of others. Because I do think as a CEO, one of the things I know I'm sure that you could teach me a lot on is just the physical impact of holding space for others as a CEO is physically draining. It's a lot. And I know that moms do it and fathers do it and everyone that's holding space for others. But, I can't imagine how many direct reports you have. I know how many are in my company, and it's a lot.
It's important. They need it, and that's part of our role. And so we do need to do that, but it not at our own expense,
Yes. Yeah.
because we it has to be a sustainable, right, capability to hold space
Yeah.
for others, and it's not sustainable if we don't take care of ourselves first,
Yeah.
right? Just like
Yes.
the oxygen mask on the airplane, you can't help anybody else,
Exactly.
take care of yourself. So can you talk a little bit about Manduka and your vision for Manduka? Where do you aspire to take Manduka?
Yeah, it's a question I get asked, and it really just feels so simple to me. As Manduka was born in 1997 by a gentleman named Peter Sterios, and I bring up the history to say, Peter's story is he was practicing in Europe. He got introduced to what is our number one product, which is the Pro, the black mat, and
I have
he had
two.
gifted, which is like the most luxurious experience. No, I get passionate about a yoga mat, but I think unless you've tried it, you don't know.
My
So
yoga mat's my best friend.
almost can feel like it's your favorite jeans or
Yes.
t-shirt. It just feels like home. And
Yes.
so I
Yes.
can't express enough, get yourself a Pro. But anyway, so Peter,
Agree.
he gifted this mat, right? And he gifted this mat to teachers. And at the time, his teacher was Shandor, teaching in a Hungarian accent. And he was teaching the Mandukasana pose. And the Mandukasana pose with his accent, created laughter in the room. And so, out of homage to that joy, the frog was born. And
I
the reason
love
I tell that story is because that is so much about my vision for Manduka. Of course, growing the business, I'm here to obviously grow the brand, but in a way where our original logo is red, and I always said it represents the heartbeat of this frog that just wants more people to leap into its best part of its life off its yoga mat. And my vision is to do it in a full way of abundance where we bring our partners like CorePower, we come together, we support our teachers and yoga studios that are at the core. They are doing the work that gets us all on a yoga mat. And so every CorePower teacher and every teacher in every yoga studio, I love CorePower, but I celebrate all that are out there, online, offline, that are just getting people more connected with their mind and bodies. And we have a gift to be that physical foundation of that. And so when I see that, I think 36 million people in the United States are practicing yoga, the growth is continues to be on a strong CAGR year after year. I'm just like, yes, people either know Manduka and love us, or they don't know us. And that range has been our gift. It's been this sweet, authentic performance brand that has taken care of its community. And I think we have more work to do there. So I come back and say that, I've spent a couple years trying to get our business foundation, but now my vision is really for us to be more expressive and connected with the community. And, part of that's starting here. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Your passion is so infectious. I'm just
Thank
taking
you.
it in and absorbing it. And I love hearing this and I love knowing this because I get on my Manduka Pro and I feel energy in that mat. It is my best friend. It has absorbed so much of my life in it and has provided me solace, comfort, energy, calm, grounding, hope, all of those things, connection to my body, connection to my feelings, connection to the universe. It's just, yes.
I'm so happy to hear that.
I feel all that energy and passion in your voice. And now I'm going to feel that when I get on my Manduka
My
Pro.
God, thank you. I'm
For
even
that.
humbled to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and the team that we have at Manduka. I've come back and we've have some people that've been here, and then a lot of new people. And I have this woman in particular that works in our marketing team, and she loves Manduka, and I think I feel a responsibility to her and to our head of product and to our accounting team and to our warehouse staff that pick and pack with their own hands that have been, some of these guys were at Manduka when I was here 12 years ago. I had this little office that had a glass window, and I would hear the zip of the tape all day packing boxes. And that same guy is still with us. And I think for me, I feel such a responsibility to make them their best and shine. And so they love our community. They care so much about the teachers in the studios. That is pervasive through everybody that joins our business. So that humanity is so humbling and fun. So I just really want the best for Manduka. My job is really to enable that. And I think we are just starting. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone who works at Manduka is involved. All of the stakeholders at Manduka are so fortunate to have you at the helm. That passion, that connection, that belief, it is so palpable. They're very, very fortunate. So I have no doubt that you're going to take Manduka to new heights, and everyone in its orbit will benefit.
And CorePower, I hope, is our, forever partner in that journey. And for me, I say this sincerely, Niki. I mean, obviously I have so much respect for you and love your team and love the relationship our businesses have had. But I equally believe that our journey is just beginning together, and
Yes,
yeah, look forward to that future state.
I do as well. I am so excited about the potential of this partnership. So more to come, right?
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure.
any obstacles you can share with us that you have overcome in your life, at Manduka, in your career? We all face obstacles every day, and I just think our listeners here would really benefit from understanding. We all face obstacles, but how have you overcome an obstacle you've faced?
It's funny because when you ask that question, it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. Sometimes you're like, is there a magic bullet? And I'm like, what's the big obstacle I've ever had? I don't know if I've had one. I've had so many medium ones, some small, some larger, but there's so like 15 rattled across my brain just quickly. And I think the first thing I would say that's always worked well for me is getting really quiet. Like I get really quiet. And maybe some of that's just being quiet about the humility of like, okay, I'm in a tough scenario. Either I created it because sometimes I make a mistake, or sometimes I'm not thinking, or sometimes just situation happened. And listening and observing, just asking a lot of questions, doing a lot of different things, talking to a lot of different people, getting in different physical environments helps break up the mind space.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, I think there is no magic bullet except brick by brick. I remember when I was younger, I don't know if it was as a math major or what it was, but when you're a math major, it's not what people think. People think, oh my God, you're in computers or whatever. When I was young, that we weren't even computers in college. It was math major is actually a proof. It's all about, like, I remember one proof we had to make was proving 1 = 0. There is a 30-step proof that you have to go through. And so it's so brick by brick. You can't jump 5 steps ahead. You have to do this step, then this step. For me, I'm like, okay, what's the first step I need to take? And then the next step. And it seems so simple. So many people say it, but it really is the special sauce for coming through any adversity. That's what I've found.
Yeah. Well, getting quiet, that is very good advice, right? When we're facing an obstacle, I think a lot of us are stressful situation. Getting quiet is counterintuitive.
Yes. It just allows sometimes too the obstacle to wash over you a bit instead of being controlled by it. I think whether it's perspective or you're just like, okay, let me just chill everything out for a second.
Yeah.
Because to your point, your body goes the other way, right? And so
We get reactive.
you can't hear anything. You can't hear anything.
Right. And so, getting quiet, going inward. I find that when I'm in stress and face challenges, like quickly I want to move into action and go external and do things like fix or control, or and getting quiet and going inward is helpful to not being so reactive and really not just thinking but feeling what's happening, and opening up space, as you said, to creative solutions, at a minimum less reactivity and more thoughtful responsiveness.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I'm not, as you can tell, comes with passion. I don't have the best poker face. So, people know when I'm quiet, it's like, what's going on? Because I'm communicative and I'm into it and I'm a coach, and I like the cheerleading. So when I go quiet, it's usually I have to retreat and go in my room. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am sure you're an amazing coach. I'm sure that many people are benefiting now from your leadership, and I can just hear it, that they're just so fortunate to have someone so thoughtful and understanding of the importance of focusing on self first.
Yeah.
We can't change a lot of what happens out there, but we can change our response. We can change how we interact with what's going on externally.
Well, I have a lot to learn, and my staff makes me better, frankly, every day. I'm much better this year than I was a year ago because of them. And I think, even talking to you, I've picked up a few things. So I can only imagine same on your end. Your
Thank you.
Success is a reflection of that.
Thank you so much. You are an inspiration and a thoughtful leader, clearly. And I hope we can continue our conversations. We're out of time with this one, but hopefully you and I will remain connected. And I look forward to working together on our CorePower Manduka partnership going forward. But congrats on your success to date. And I'm sure you're going to bring that vision to life.
Thank you. Well, Niki, thank you so much. And to everyone at CorePower, I love you. We love you. So I'm sure I'm going to see you either in a studio or at corporate soon. So
thank you. Sending all that love back to you and to Manduka.
Great.
Thanks for chatting today.
Thank you, Niki.